So this is something I've been meaning on doing for some time now, which is a tier list of the hardest fights in the game post ninth anniversary. Now, I did add an extra few units to this tier list specifically, but thank you to Honeyman for creating the basis for this tier list here. And there's been a lot of fights, obviously. I mean, you can see here, pre-anniversary, it was just the only fights left here are Fusions of Mouse and Omega. Now, I could have added some other fights in the the Dismal Future Red Zone, but I think, starting off with the two generally accepted hardest fights, I think I want to rank post 9th anniversary. Then from there, we're gonna configure everything else around, right? So we're gonna have a starting point from the fights that we're most familiar with, and then again we're gonna build around that. So again, just to recap here, Fusion Zamasu was the hardest fight in the game, at least we all agreed before the 9th anniversary began, because of his very dangerous 500k damage AoE's turn 1, 0 cooldown super attack, right? The damage reduced of 1.5 mil to 0 was also annoying for certain characters. Then we had situations where this physical Fusion Zamasu, his normals hit for nearly over, I think he hit for about 1 million damage, right? Once he super attacks, over 2 mil damage once he super attacks, like on the super attack itself. Very dangerous character. And yeah, so this is a very tough fight for sure. Not even just the first phase, the second phase. So I think for the time being, we're gonna put him in A. I even post 9th anniversary, I still think that Fusion Zamasu fight is relatively difficult. Again, I would compared to the hardest fights in the game, I think doesn't really stand up to them if we're comparing them side by side. But in terms of again, this guy being an unfair fight, just very dangerous fight, this guy is still definitely up there, and with how hard he hits, especially in the Fusion's monster phase when he's corrupted, and the AoE's turn 1, they're still not it's not like every character in the game can now handle these turn 1 AoEs. We got a couple of characters during the anniversary that I feel like could potentially handle them, but even some of these anniversary characters that we got, like Vegeta, the AoEs could actually be a little dangerous to this character turn 1. I think, let's see who else here I think could kind of struggle. I mean, these guys pre-super attack, if you don't get them the rainbow orbs, I think there could be situations where you're in trouble. I mean, if we're taking a look at AGL Bardock, this guy is not doing anything. Frieza is another character, gets all his stats when attacking. We have Gogeta, I think that turn 1 that AoE could hurt him. Broly, the turn 1 AoE could do a little damage to him as well. So it's not these characters are every single character is they're invincible now against these AoEs. No, that's not the case. I still think Fusion Zamasu is a relatively difficult fight. Now Omega is also somewhat of a difficult fight, but I'm gonna put him in B tier. I would say that in terms of separating these two, there's a lot more difficult, longer fights that could be a little annoying. Maybe I'll I don't know. I can't really see myself putting Omega in A right now. I'm gonna put him in B for now, right? I haven't even I honestly didn't preset this tier list. A lot of times my tier lists are preset up, but in this one I decided it'd be better if I just go on the fly, and directly compare them to, and then we'll see how I feel about it after. But I think we're gonna do A and B like this, and then we're gonna build from here. So the first fight after this, I guess to explain Omega again, he can't be dodged the first turn. You can still stun your stackers, which actually is annoying because a lot of these early fights don't do that like Omega can. Then he can have the 600k AoE damage, right? That can be a little devastating. The greatly raised attack, right? He doesn't really hit that hard anymore compared to some of these bosses. I feel like his HP level and how tanky he is not really that dangerous anymore. I think the 0 cooldown here could be annoying, and this guy could definitely hit you still pretty hard on these AoEs, especially for this could be a turn 3 situation, and when some of these stronger characters, and you're just turn 3 AoE that hits you for about, what would that be, 540k normals, that could be a little devastating. And then this Omega, I think, with the defense slower and everything like that, if you're not running these defensive stacking characters, that can be a little troublesome. And we do also want to count the fact that target skills don't matter against AoEs. So AoEs would still go through regardless. So I don't know. I'll put Omega here in A for now, but I could easily see him moving back down. So we're gonna do that for now. For now, right? Things could change by the end of the tier list here. So again, these two are the jumping point, and then now we're gonna go into movies red zone. So again, some of these fights difficult-ish, like, you know, or Gohan, but I just put the last two here, Beerus and Golden Frieza. We'll talk about Golden Frieza first. I feel like Beerus is actually the harder fight. So the thing about this Golden Frieza fight, is that he just has, I don't know why the cells here, but this should be the STR, like an STR like Golden Frieza boss. I don't really, why is a cell here? This is Golden Frieza at the end, right? Where he has a one-shot attack that hits for, I think it hits for around like 5+ mil like damage, which is very high. I think he's just like a difficult-ish boss, right? 630k normal's pretty tough. He attacks 11 times, almost a 2 mil damage super attack. This phase can potentially catch you off guard, right? You know, the normal attacks could hit you for, again, closer to 600k or so. This first phase, difficult-ish, but it's not really that bad of a fight. I would say, like, you know, in comparison to Fusion Zamasu and Omega, this Golden Frieza fight does actually not live up to how difficult they are. This is a fun showcase fight, though, I would say. Like, if you're a content creator, this is a fun little showcase fight that you could use to show some characters off, but that's that. So B, that's where I'm gonna put this Golden Frieza in the B tier for now. I don't think he is as hard as Omega or Fusion Zamasu, and this actually makes me feel better about keeping Omega here in A as of now. Because if like Golden Frieza is like hard-ish, right, but it doesn't really match up to them, in my personal opinion. I guess I can close these for now. There's not really a need to talk about them for here. Next, we have the Beerus fight. So this Beerus fight, I think it's actually pretty tough. This Beerus fight has type coverage, which is annoying, right? And what happens with this Beerus is that you attack him a couple of times when he's in his int form, and then you can get to the STR phase here, and obviously with the type coverage that can be annoying. But he does have a territory skill, right? And the territory skill can only be taken down with the, like, you know, domain effects. The only thing about that is this Beerus, I feel like he's out a lot of times on like the third turn, right? So a lot of situations, these domain skills can't be used until turn 5. I feel like most domains cannot be used until the 5th turn, unless you're using that like free-to-play Trunks. Then he's like the only one that's like a turn 1 domain. But other than that, and you can't even use them here in this fight because I think his domain has to be against a Future Saga enemy, right? So this makes him hit super hard. He changes the key spheres, which can be annoying, right? Yeah, it's just really annoying that he could just change all the key spheres on the field. Just really stupid. This shows that's 2.25, but I think it actually hits a lot harder because of the fact that the domain skill doesn't actually show in here from what I'm understanding. So even it's a greatly raised attack, which I believe is 50%. So I believe his normal, if it's like the 50% in the super attack effect, then what happens is that should be, what is that, 960k normals, and then the super attack is hitting for 2.5 million, I believe is how it would work. Then he's relatively tanky, right? To be fair, he shares that HP bar with these two, with this phase here, and then after a couple of turns he goes back to the normal Beerus. But like, this is, I think, like a good portion of the fight here. It is a shorter fight as well. He can be tough. This Beerus, very difficult, I think, for sure. Just based off his numbers, based off the type covers. Like, you're bringing a bunch of physical units here potentially, because it's not like this Beerus hits necessarily weak. But I guess to be fair, you don't have to bring a lot of physical characters, but it like stops you from bringing physical characters, right? Which, you know, can limit certain characters that you want to bring. Like, I think Blue Cow can Goku and Evolution Blue Vegeta. Maybe you'll be hesitant to bring that kind of character here, just as an example, right? Now, or even like the Gogeta Blue card, right? You know, you get this guy, like you get Gogeta Blue and you're kind of forced to transform with him. I guess to be fair, you're going to transform with him anyways, but like when you transform with him in this phase, he might not dodge, and then you can get screwed over, right? For sure, that can happen. So that's the one thing. I actually will put the Beerus fight in here, and if anything, I actually do think that the Beerus fight could be argued as harder than Fusion Zamasu and Omega. I think for sure, I would say he's a harder fit than Omega. Fusion Zamasu, I think you can go back and forth here. Would I say Beerus is the harder fight? See, the thing that's funny is that with Beerus, there are situations where you can just one shot this first phase, right? I've had like there's team builds that you could use that just like you kill the physical phase before you even get to the SDR phase, and that's because they share the HP stat. Like this HP bar, it's 115 mil, but they share it, right? So I've had situations where I brought it was like a superhero team led by Physical Ultimate Gohan, right? I had him, Blue Falcon, Goku Evolution Vegeta, Sword of Hope Trunks, and a bunch of other physical characters that will just do some damage, and then looky there, I was able to one turn this phase. So I don't know. There are builds. Well, there's builds you could do that. I feel like that shouldn't mean like, oh, we're gonna ignore what this guy's doing. Definitely not, because a lot of teams are not able to do that. It's just like that very specific team build, right? He also does disable dodge. Yeah, he does disable dodge too. That's so annoying. That's what I was talking about with Gogeta earlier. Like you can't bring Broly Trio, Gogeta, even UI Goku, like Age of UI Goku, who could arguably one of the better units here. That's like his main mechanic you can't really use in this fight. So that's the thing. Yeah, him disabling dodge is also just very nasty. So this Beerus fight was pretty tough, and I still would say he is a pretty tough fight overall. So there you go, one of the harder fights in the game. I think this Beerus was introduced with this movie's Red Zone version 2. But that's all we're going to talk about regarding the version 2 Red Zone. We're going to go to the Dragon Ball Super Memorial Battle now. The first fight here is against Broly, and this is a separate event that was introduced just like I think it was during... It wasn't during part 2. It was like these stages were introduced in part 1, but these stages were also introduced in part 2 after the characters came out, from what I'm understanding. Now, we had this Broly fight. I think this Broly fight was actually pretty tough, and on release, this Broly fight could be argued as the hardest fight in the game. Yeah, for sure. Because the thing about this Broly fight is he has this phase right here, which could be pretty devastating. He could double super. He greatly raises his attack. Then his normals could hit over for, I think it's 610k, 630k normals, right? This could be like a turn 2 situation, even turn 3 situation. Then, of course, with that, his super attack doesn't really hit that hard for 1.3, but he could do it twice, and he has a 30% chance to super, so he could very likely just super you instantly. He has 8 attacks per turn and cooldown of 4. So I would say the thing about this 4 cooldown is that it might not be like... I would say it's relatively common to see him super attack you twice a turn, I would say. This Broly is annoying, and I believe does he not have a domain or a territory skill? I forgot. I don't think... Yeah, he does have a territory skill. So it just only disables attack and defense reduction, though. That's really it. Yeah, and he hits for 1.68. 600k, and then he lowers her defense by 40%, which is pretty tough. That's pretty nasty. Then this last phase here does disable dodge, right? And doesn't hit as hard, but the dodge disable could be very, very annoying. So this fight was actually really tough. I don't think it was as toxic as the Fusion Monster fight, but I would say this fight was definitely tough up there. Now, would I say this fight is S tier or A tier? I think for now, we're going to put this fight in as A tier. I don't know. I might put... I think I'm going to do A tier. I feel like this Beerus fight was low-key harder than this Broly fight, is what I'm thinking at the top of my head right now. I think that Beerus fight was harder. This Broly fight was tough, just because there's 40% debuff into the nullification of dodge. But I think the thing about this Broly fight, there's like no type coverage, I think is one thing I want to talk about there. Type coverage is really like huge for these bosses, being able to like just limit you from bringing literal choices to the fight. And then the disabled dodge is right at the end of the fight, so it's like, okay, well at that point, even if you can't disable dodge, a lot of these characters that are stacking up at that point, like if it was like disable dodge from like the 3rd turn or something like that, like how the Beerus fight is, I think it's much more difficult. Well, disabling dodge is still definitely like a very, very bad thing, like for characters. I don't think it's as difficult as what the Beerus fight was doing, just based on my personal playing of the events. This Gogeta fight, I would say, was pretty tough. He could seal you turn 1, right there. he has the dodge chance here, which, this phase is kind of like a nothing burger. This phase is only annoying because it could steal you, right? So you could steal like your, if he steals you in slot 1, then you can't super, that could be annoying for like a stacking character. This Gogeta portion of the fight, I would say, is not as hard as the Broly portion of the fight. Like where, Broly could double super you. And then I would say this Gogeta Blue was pretty tough. He was probably the harder, like in terms of comparing the two, like that was the hardest phase out of these two fights specifically. 2.15 mil with the 50% defense lower. Then you have for 615k normals. Like that's tough. Would I say the Broly fight here, like this was harder? Because he has this defense lower and disable dodge. I don't know. I feel like, retroactively looking back at it, this Gogeta fight might just be harder. Because I feel, I guess, like there is not really type coverage here. Like there's no AGO boss here. I guess, you could say, if you want to bring AGO characters for this, the first two phases are attack, and that could be a little annoying. Because like Broly is like, there's not like true type coverage here. I guess, wait, so we have to bring STR. I guess, well, no, Broly does. What am I thinking? Broly does have type coverage. Yeah, the Broly fight probably was harder still, but this Gogeta fight was pretty tough, and I would say this Gogeta fight was harder than the Fusion Monster fight. Yeah, I think these three were the harder fights in the game at the time of the release. And then we did have a couple of Supreme Battle Spectacle fights, which I guess, what I'll do is I'm gonna move these back to here. And then I'm going to talk about the Supreme Battle Spectacle fights when they release. And we're going to talk about these two fights here first. Yeah, so we'll talk about the Supreme Battle Spectacle fights because I think they came out at this time, right, with these other fights here. But yeah, dude, these fights were kind of tough for sure. So we have God Goku, we have Blue Vegeta, and then the Blue Kaioken Goku here. So God Goku is not really tough, honestly, of a fight. I mean, you can see he doesn't really do much damage. He's kind of just like a long, kind of stalling fight. This is more like a fun fight, honestly, like where you could bring characters that want a Goku enemy, want a Pure Saiyan enemy, stuff like that. But I feel like, besides a stun, he doesn't really do anything special. You could debuff him in the first few phases. He hits very, very weakly. This God Goku fight is pretty easy. I would honestly say he's like a C tier fight. I don't comparatively to the Golden Frieza fight in terms of stats, he doesn't even reach 2 mil, 1.4 mil, and then 500k. Almost no, Golden Frieza's fight is definitely harder than this God Goku fight. This is more like a fun fight, but it was unfortunately not really tough. So that does suck for God Goku there. I think this fight is actually I would say when it came out, it was underrated in terms of its difficulty. I mean, again, we have turn 1 Blue Goku. He raised the attack right here, right? So that's the 1 turn raise. That went into, how much did that actually go up to? Was that over 700k normals? No, actually, it's a 30% raise, huh? So he was about 600k, 620k normals, something like that, something closer to that, right? Which isn't actually, it was probably, hold on, let me. I realized it's smart for me to just have a calculator up here. So again, 485,000 defense attack, and then we do the 30% raise here. Yeah, that's 630k. That's 620k. 630k is what I thought. And then obviously we minus the 480 right there. Then we add 150k, essentially the difference to this. So that is 1.5 mil, just turn 1 with potentially over 630k normal attack damage, which is pretty tough. Then this Blue Vegeta didn't hit as hard. Obviously, he hits harder, straightforward, but post super attack Blue Goku hits harder. But I think this guaranteed stun was very annoying. And then, you can see the HP levels comparatively to Fusion Zamasu. We had more HP here. Tankier, potentially. Well, not really tankier per se, but yeah. Nope, type coverage here. The stun is annoying though, and the attack raise. This guy turn 1, he can get you pretty hard, honestly. Even though there's no AoEs comparatively to Zamasu. I think this fight was still, I feel like I want to say here, like at the end of A. I think the AoEs make these fights harder, but this blue Vegeta was definitely not like a weak fight. Would I say this blue Vegeta was harder than Gohan and Frieza though? I might put him in B actually. I think I'll do this blue Vegeta fight. Well, I feel like, you know, I feel like people both disrespected how like relatively difficult these two fights were. No one really talked about them. Like, I think they could give people some trouble, but I would probably say that they're not as toxic or will give people as much trouble as like these A tier fights that I'm having right here. Well, Blue Goku Goku now. So Blue Goku Goku. The thing about this guy is that he does disable dodge again, which is very devastating, right? For a one phase fight, just disable dodge, right? He's only this one phase. He can be attack lord, but this guy hits you really hard straight off. He could double super, greatly raise his attack for the turn. So it's like, okay, with the greatly raised attack, he's getting 300k. So his normals are hitting for 900k. His super attack is hitting for 1.98 mil, which is basically 2 mil. You can do 2 of those a turn pretty consistently, in my experience. And his disables dodge, well, it's like, this guy was like kind of like an Omega Shenron merchant, where it's like, you know, oh, attack lowering could really hurt this guy quite a bit. A lot of these other teams could struggle in this fight. I would say, again, he's like, maybe like here. I feel like he's arguably harder than Omega, but I wouldn't put him above Fusion's Masu. Because attack, there's a lot of characters who can attack lore, but the dodge disable is really annoying. It's tough. It's tough from here. This fight was hard. I just don't think it was like the hardest fight in the game when it came out. I feel like Fusion's Masu was probably still harder, but it was pretty tough. It was not an easy fight for sure. I think it can catch a lot of people off guard as well. I think this is really what sells it for me, the dodge disable. But that's just me there. So, alright, that is it for the first 2 phases of the Supreme Battle Spectacle. Next, we're going to go into the Dragon Ball Super Movie Memorial again, where we have Gamma 1 and 2, and then Gohan and Piccolo. Well, I guess these fights did come out after some of these ones, so I might actually do this. Do we just hop back into the Supreme Battle Spectacle again? Yeah, I think I'm going to. We're going to hop back into the Supreme Battle Spectacle, actually. I lied to y'all. Get caught off guard. What can I say? So, we have Trunks, UI Goku, and then the Blue Vegeta fight. We'll talk about Trunks first. Trunks is S tier. One of the harder fights in the game, this Trunks. And you can even tell, they knew this Trunks story was hard, because, did I close the... I did close the thing, or I didn't mean to close it. But you could tell this Trunks fight was like they intended for this fight to be one of the harder fights here, because he's actually on the, like, they didn't put UI Goku in the cover, they didn't put Blue Evolution Vegeta, they had Trunks here. Like, it would make sense if UI Goku's here, but that Trunks here. So it's like, they intended for this Trunks fight to be difficult, or at least more difficult than the other fights that we got here. Turn 1, nothing really special. 500k normals, 1.2 mil. That is about Fusion's Zamasu level, right? Turn 1. Without the AoEs, right? Is the only thing. But he ramps up pretty quickly here. So he has very high defense, right? 6.9. Raises defense, he gets to max defense. And you could think like, oh, that's not that big of a deal, right? You know, you could just crit, sure. But I think like that defense will all go down to 0. Defense lowering is going to be very important here, though. Especially if you don't crit. This guy is like obviously going to be pretty tanky. He has a decent amount of HP too. 66 mil is definitely not a low amount of HP for having just the max defense set right there. And he hits pretty hard, right? 630k normals. I think that's not like you could finish this guy out pretty quickly. So it's like 630k normals from like even turn 2 or turn 3, right? It can be a little devastating. But he locks you, I think is why I'm saying like that's really bad. That character lock that's guaranteed is very annoying. Then he could just super you, just like twice a turn for 1.7 mil, and then he seals you. So like if he supers you instantly, you can't stack, you can't do anything on your super attack effects, or like if you like have to super to raise your defense, you don't get that either. Especially if he locks a slot 3 character in slot 1, you're either forced to use an item, or you're just forced to take it, man. It can be very tough. This sort of Trunks. Then he has type coverage, where he goes to the in phase. 60% chance to super, with a massive raise and a guaranteed stun. So he guaranteed stuns you, first off. Then he massively raises his attack, in which the 750k normals, that goes up to 1.5 million normals. And then the super attack hits you for 3 million damage. And then it's 60% chance with a 0 cooldown. So you know what happens? What happens is that this guy supers you in slot 1 every single time of the fight. Every single time. And then you're at risk of bringing physical characters because they can get stuck in slot 1 potentially, or even just locked where you don't want them to be locked. And then like they take a bunch of attacks and they die, right? You know? So the only caveat is that this guy can be attack lord in this last phase, but it's like very hard to apply these debuffs to this boss if he's just gonna instantly super attack you, unless it's a passive skill debuff. And it's like you can't even say GT bosses merchant for this fight necessarily, because like this phase is pretty tough, man, and GT bosses sucks. Like GT bosses is not gonna help you much through this phase unless you're again using items. GT bosses could be pretty nice here in this final phase, but it can be devastating. Workarounds for this fight, I would say nullification, not an active skill, so like even physical ultimate Gohan, Omega himself, right? He has a nullification where you could action break the first attack. I think that's very important, right? Characters that action break, I think, on their active skills. Final Form Frieza is another character. Could be very useful here for this fight. You could just cancel the super attack out since it has such a huge chance. But yeah, this Trunks is up there for sure. I would say this Trunks is very, very tough. Blue Evolution Vegeta, relatively tough, right? He has this 80% defense debuff, a ceiling right here. Just even though he seals, this first phase doesn't really hit that bad, and it's like this is a shorter fight anyways, so you likely aren't going to bring stackers that'll be really affected badly by the seal anyways, compared to like other fights like Omega. And then again, this 80% defense lower could be devastating, but I feel like I didn't really struggle too much from that. Yeah, I don't know. I would say this fight is tough. I'm gonna say it's probably like, again, is the Blue Kaioken and Goku fight harder? Yes, I would say the Blue Kaioken and Goku fight is probably harder, at least in my opinion. This guy doesn't have like any attack raise or anything like that, right? Would I say Omega's harder? Maybe, honestly. Like, this Blue Vegeta fight wasn't really that bad. I think he deserves to be an A tier. I think he's harder than this fight. Is he really? Is he really though? Like, really thinking about it, like, is the first Blue Goku and Vegeta fight more difficult than this Blue Evolution Vegeta fight? Like, if we're just comparing, the defense lower is very, very nasty, right? But we're just comparing the two. Let me see. We'll bring up, there it is right here. Like, okay, we compare the two directly. I mean, this Blue Goku hits a lot harder. I'd say the attack raise is more devastating than the seal. Blue Vegeta attacks more, but it doesn't really matter. Then, is the stun more worse than the defense lower? Probably not. No, I would say this Blue Vegeta fight is probably overall going to be harder because I think the last phase is more difficult. But yeah, I thought you could make an argument maybe. Yeah, so that's a thing. Then we have UI Goku here. I think this fight is relatively difficult. It's another good showcase fight for, like, I would say an A tier boss. I would say this fight is harder than Blue Vegeta. This guy hits hard. Over 2 mil. He could seal you. I think that can be very annoying. 23% chance super. Very often he supers you very close in slot 1. 600k. A normal's right here. The attack rates here for 570k. That can get him to, of course. I mean, post super attack, this guy will hit harder than this phase right here. Well, actually, no, I lied. So this is what. Yeah, that's 800k normals. That's not bad. And then, obviously, 2 million damage here. Still, this guy hits for about like 750k normals or so. I would say 1.8, 1.9 mil damage on the super. Changes key spheres. Like, these two parts of the fight are difficult-ish, but their HP stats are very low, right? If you take a look here, they don't have a lot of HP. At these first two phases, you can debuff them, not really hitting that hard. I mean, I guess 1.5 mil damage is nothing like bad, but it's like, you know, mediocre levels of damage now, right? You know, like compared to these other 9th anniversary bosses, is what I'm gonna say, and we're ranking them to each other, not to the units that are existing in the game. So yeah, so I would say this is definitely an A tier fight. Is it harder than Omega? I mean, some people may be like, oh, you're overrating Omega Shenron, right? I don't know, maybe we'll do this. Is this what I feel comfortable with? I feel like the blue cow can go. It was still partly hard in this one. I think we'll do this. I mean, putting them in order is such a hassle. I feel like it doesn't even really matter. So I might just keep it like this. It's whatever. The order doesn't really matter that much. You could argue. They're all in the same tier anyways, man. But yeah. Do I move Beerus up to S tier? Is Beerus an S tier fight? He might be. That's tough. Beerus might be, I think Beerus is an S tier fight. Because I was gonna say, it's like I wouldn't move Beerus like down to like this, and I'm like, maybe that means to move Beerus up a tier, right? Maybe that's what that means, right? Okay. Yeah, Beerus is tough, dude. Whew. That Beerus fight, they cooked. I love this fight a lot. I think this fight is very fun. Okay, so now we get to the Spring Battle Spectacles. I lied. The Moon Royal with Gamma 1 and 2, and then Gohan and Piccolo here, which is what I believe these two are. So I guess we'll look at Gohan and Piccolo. This fight's tough. I'll just based off of what I'm thinking, I'm gonna say this is also an S tier fight. Yeah, S tier. I think makes a lot of sense to me. So okay. Ultimate Gohan, guaranteed stun you. Could be very annoying. Doesn't really hit that hard though. Orange Piccolo Kitsuyu doesn't really hit that hard though, but this Orange Piccolo fight could be very annoying. He has a 50% chance to lock, which yeah, that lock is just kind of devastating, right? The lock isn't really too nice to you. Tanky-ish, right? I would say he's about the same as the Fusion Zamasu final phase. But he gets super with a 25% chance, which is definitely not bad. And then he raises his attack and defense for the turn. So, excuse me, with the attack raise, that's almost 200k. So that's about what, 2 points? Let's say 2.2 mil, 2.3 mil damage on the super attack. And he could just locking someone and just super you. That's stupid, right? Then we have this. This is like, again, determine actions where it's like no matter what he's always gonna super in specific intervals and stuff like that. But I mean these could be devastating supers, man. A 25% chance here, which I guess I can, it doesn't really matter because it's guaranteed here anyways. But this one with the greatly raised attack and defense, that gets you over 1 mil normals, and then the super hits you for close to 3 mil. And then he could also decide, hey, instead of that, I'm going to debuff you. 50% defense. Still for 2.5 mil. And, like, that's tough. That's a tough fight, man. Beast Gohan. This Beast Gohan fight is very tough. Again, I don't know. Would I say it's harder than Beerus? I don't care anymore, man. I'm just going to put him on this tier list. But, yeah, dude, that's tough. That's tough for sure. So, there that is. Yeah, I mean, straight up, it's just a tough fight, right? The numbers are high. The locking is stupid. The defense lower, it could also be really stupid. I guess this guy... No, he can't be attacking defense lower, right? Okay, so... Yep. Alright, Gamma 1 and 2 fight, I would say he's actually also very tough. I mean, yeah. I mean, you can see here, he has 5.5 mil super attack countdown right there. 700k normals. This middle phase hits pretty hard, right? If he gets he can super twice a turn, by the way, so you can like both of these off. I don't know if both super attack effects will activate, but if they both would activate, that'd be crazy. But if he gets the greatly raise, again, that's almost 1.3 mil normals. Like, no, actually, no, I'm a liar. That's That's almost 1 mil damage normals, 960k. Y'all, I can't do math in my head sometimes. It is what it is. But he could do that twice. This super attack would hit you for about 2.5 mil. Pretty tough. The Gamma's, like, first phases, I would say, are a little harder than, like, the Beast Gohan first phases. So, comparatively, I feel like the Beast Gohan fight is harder, because just because the Orange Piccolo lock, but this fight is, up there, too. I feel like the first, early on, like, overall, I think this fight is, like, in the first two phases, it's more difficult. But then the Beast Gohan fight in the last two phases are real difficult. And I think that's what really matters to me more. Because that lock is really annoying. Alright, so. Now we have the Supreme Battle Spectacle Blue Gogeta and Ultimate Gohan, Beast Gohan. These fights are tough. I'm just going to put them here. For now. Like, yeah. They're the toughest fights in the game, I would say. Yep. I mean, this guy could be Attack Lord for these last few phases, but again, Attack Lording doesn't matter if you're just gonna get. It's so stupid. Like this is the last phase. Well, firstly, there's type coverage, Tech to STR. So age, you want to bring AGL characters for this phase and this phase, and then he's here. He's like, hey, how you looking? I'm gonna hit you for this 1 mil damage normals and then 2.5 mil super. Isn't that cool? Right, I'm gonna seal you in this first phase and be very annoying. I'm gonna seal you here, hit you for 1.7 mil, and then have like over 600k damage normals. And then even though you get tackler this guy here, like, look how hard he's hitting, man. And then this guy can super you twice. That's a massive attack raise and seals you. So like, if he supers you in slot 1, what do you do? Because this 900k is put here, so that's a 3.6 million damage super if you're unable to attack lower him at all. Then he could seal you. Then he could do 2 AoEs. Now, in my experience, obviously the AoEs are not XD guaranteed. Sometimes you can get no AoEs, sometimes you can get 2, sometimes just 1. Sometimes the super attack is at the end, it's only 16%, but the fact that he could hit for 1.8 mil normals and then 3.6 mil right there, and the AoEs are just gonna hit for, I think the AoE damage is 1.3 mil after super attacking. It's really disgusting how hard this guy hits, and it's a thing where it's like, okay, you can attack lower him, but he's gonna hit you so hard regardless. Like, it doesn't matter really that much. Unless you're like really mega debuffing him. Like, you can't bring Omega here. Like, Omega is just gonna get destroyed throughout the fight. So, yeah, this guy's tough. This guy's stupid. Beast Gohan's dumb. I mean, this guy could just lock you turn 1 and then super you for like 2. Well, how much is that? 2.9? Yeah, I think it's 2.9 or so. Which is fun. You know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I think it's 2.8 actually. 2.8, 2.9. 30% chance super, so he's a lot of times going to super you in slot 1. In my personal experience, then he guaranteed stuns you, so you can't even attack. So you can't do damage to him with your slot 1 character, which is cool. Excuse me. He reduces damage lower than 3 mil to 0. 100 million HP. This Beast Gohan fight, you could argue him is harder than Gogeta, for sure. Just because he has this, like... Unlike Gogeta, I feel like this Beast Gohan has an ability where he could just stall you out until he wins, right? Because the thing with Gogeta is that it's a longer fight, you can prepare more. And Gogeta doesn't... Like, I guess he has the seal, but he can still attack. Like, if full power Broly gets sealed, he still will attack, like, 1 billion times and do some damage. Beast Gohan stuns you, dude. So you can't attack. And any damage under 3 million is 0 damage. So that's annoying. Then you can mess up your rotations. This guy could also delay you because he nullifies Ki Blast super attacks. So any Ki Blast super attack doesn't do damage to him. Hits for about 1.7 mil, 700k normals or so. First phase, not really too tough, but you know, he could hit you for over a mil. About 400k normals. Nothing special though. He could be Attack Lord as well. But yeah. Also type coverage as well, you know. you want to bring physical, you want to bring out star characters, have fun with each Ultimate Gohan, dude. These are very stupid design fights. Very stupid lead design fights, man. That is it for Supreme Battle Spectacle, though. Then we have the movie bosses, like Boss Rush for the version 1 here. Not really too difficult until you get to around Bojack. Bojack can stun. No, he got stun. He can seal you right here and lock in someone, so that's fun. And then he just supers you for 1.4, which 1.4 isn't that bad, but if he's like sealing your slot 3 character in slot 1 and locking them at the same time, it's like, what are you doing? And then sealing you will keep you from doing damage. Janemba could be tough. If you get to the physical Janemba portion, right, 2.1 mil, 700k normals, lowers your attack and defense by 30%. Not bad at all. And then Broly he just hits hard. 1 mil damage normals, 3 mil damage right there. He can super you twice a turn, 20% chance. The only thing is that Broly can't disable dodge, so I don't know. This Broly fight's tough. I would say he's like, again, an S tier fight, but I don't want to say the movie bosses Red Zone is like super mega tough. I would say overall it's a tough fight, but it's not like, you know, anything too dangerous. Cell Max though, I'm actually gonna put Cell Max like here. I think Cell Max might be the 3rd hardest fight in the game, 3rd or 4th. This fight's just disgusting. He's the hardest turn 1 fight in the game. Turn 1, he could just hit you for 2.5 mil on a super, and then it's like, what do? You just die. 1 mil damage normals as well, just instantly. And sure, eventually this guy can be debuffed. Like on turn 4, you could seal him. On turn 4, you could lower his attack and defense. On turn 7, you could stun him. But then he gets progressively like harder hitting as well. He could lower your own defense. Still hits for about 2.5 mil, I believe. And then right here at the end, like he hits for 1.8 mil normals if you're not like able to debuff him or anything. And then he lowers your attack and defense once he's at low HP. It's just he's the nasty. I think just early on this fight is so dumb. I probably would say Trunks probably the hardest still, but man, that fight's tough. Like Cell Max, they made a tough fight, dude. That's just, it's kind of crazy. I almost want to like do this, like something like this actually, where I don't know, just move these around. Like, it doesn't really matter here. We're just gonna do this right here. This is not really supposed to be in order, and I'm gonna do it like that just so it isn't in order. Actually, I'm gonna. Yeah, I might do a situation where it's like this. Is this better? I wouldn't say Beerus is on that level though. Do I move these two up here? I think I feel better like this. I don't want to have this as a D tier, so I'm gonna put C, B, A, S, and then Z tier fights. These two are the 8th anniversary memorial fights. I mean, not really hard. I think Broly can catch you off guard a little. He has AoEs that hit for 730, 750k, but it's only the first AoE. And then the next two do 375k. I mean, it's hard. This fight isn't easy, but I wouldn't say it's like too difficult. I would say I probably would put him here though, honestly. I mean, let me reevaluate. Okay, so I mean, at the end again, Broly could be a little tough right here because he could hit you for over 1 mil damage normals, 2.1 mil super, 30% chance of super. The AoEs aren't that bad, but yeah, I would say they probably deserve to be here in this range of like difficulty because it's AoE here. Beast Gohan, he could hit you for close to 3 mil, right? So yeah, I would say so. I'm probably gonna have these two fights up here. But that is, I guess, my ranking for the 9th anniversary fights, man. This is a long one to record. Goodness, man, that's crazy. But this is what I'm thinking, more or less. Do I think you can mix things around? Sure, you could easily mix things around here. I think for 100%. But this is my idea of how hard the fights are. I think these fights are on a tier above the rest. Yeah, I feel good about this. I feel good about this. So let me know what you guys think, how you guys would rank the hardest fights in the game. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace out.